George Washington was born on the 22nd of February, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He grew up in a family of farmers and landowners. His father, Augustine Washington, owned several plantations, including Pope's Creek, Ferry Farm, and Little Hunting Creek, which would later be renamed Mount Vernon. When George was 11 years old, his father died, which changed his life. Without his father's support, he could not go to school in England like his older half-brothers. Instead, he studied in local schools and with tutors until the age of 15. Even though his schooling stopped early, he continued to teach himself by reading books. Washington developed a passion for land surveying and studied mapping on his own and learned by practicing with simple tools around his home. He also studied manners and behavior from a book called The Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior. These lessons helped him develop self-control and discipline, traits that would define his life. When his father died, George inherited Ferry Farm, while his older half-brother Lawrence Washington received Mount Vernon. Because George was only 11 years old, he couldn't manage or profit from the farm himself. His mother, Mary Ball Washington, oversaw the property until he became an adult. As he grew older, George wanted to earn his own income and gain real-world experience. Surveying offered both. It was one of the best-paying and most respected jobs available to young men in colonial Virginia. At just 17 years old, Washington became the official surveyor for Culpeper County, Virginia, an impressive achievement for someone his age. He spent weeks at a time in the wilderness measuring and mapping new lands. When his brother, Lawrence, died in 1752, George, then 20 years old, took control of Mount Vernon. Managing the estate taught him valuable skills in farming, trade, and leadership. Over time, he expanded the plantation to more than 8,000 acres, making it one of the most successful in Virginia. Like other large plantations of that time, Mount Vernon relied on the labor of enslaved men, women, and children. By 1799, about 317 enslaved people lived and worked there. Washington's views on slavery changed later in life. He came to believe it was wrong, and in his will, ordered that all enslaved people he owned be freed after his wife's death. At age 20, George Washington's ambition and loyalty to Virginia led him to join the Virginia militia during the French and Indian War. When he was 21 years old, he was appointed as a major and sent on a mission by Governor Robert Dinwiddie to deliver a warning to the French, telling them to leave the Ohio River Valley, which they refused. The governor was impressed by his courage and leadership, and at age 22, he was promoted to lieutenant colonel and led soldiers into his first battle at Fort Necessity. The mission failed, but Washington showed bravery and learned important lessons. He later served under British General Edward Braddock during the Battle of the Monongahela, when the general was killed and his troops panicked. George Washington rode through heavy gunfire to rally the men and organize an orderly retreat. His actions helped save many lives, likely hundreds, by preventing a total massacre. His leadership that day made him a hero across the colonies. Through his experiences in the French and Indian War, Washington gained valuable skills in wilderness warfare, leadership under pressure, and military strategy, skills that would later help him command the Continental Army during the American Revolution. Shortly after the war ended in 1758, Washington resigned from the militia. He returned home to Mount Vernon, where he married Martha Custis and focused on managing his plantation. By the 1770s, tensions between the colonies and the British Crown were rising. Washington grew frustrated with Britain's unfair taxes and strict control over the colonies. He came to believe that freedom and self-government were rights worth fighting for. When the American Revolution began in 1775, the Second Continental Congress chose Washington to lead the Continental Army as its commander-in-chief. Throughout the Revolutionary War, George Washington faced both victories and defeats that tested his leadership and determination. Early on, his armies suffered losses at Long Island, Brandywine, and Germantown, and often struggled with shortages of food, weapons, and supplies. Still, Washington refused to give up. His bold surprise attack across the icy Delaware River in 1776 led to victories at Trenton and Princeton, restoring hope for independence. During the harsh winter at Valley Forge, he inspired his weary soldiers to endure hunger and freezing weather while training to become a stronger, more disciplined army. Though Washington didn't win every battle, his persistence, strategy, and leadership ultimately won the war. After the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, George Washington returned home, hoping to live quietly at Mount Vernon. Many people wanted him to become king, but he refused, saying he wished to retire from public life. However, the young nation was struggling to form. Leaders across the country called on Washington to help guide the nation once more, and in 1787, he was selected to preside over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, where delegates worked to create a new government with stronger federal powers. After the U.S. Constitution was finished, in 1789, Washington was overwhelmingly chosen as the first president of the United States. Although he didn't want the job and longed for a peaceful life at home, he accepted out of a deep sense of duty and love for his country. As president, Washington helped shape the new government. He formed the first presidential cabinet, signed the Bill of Rights, and kept the United States neutral in foreign wars. In 1797, after serving 2 terms, he chose to retire. George Washington died in 1799 at Mount Vernon. He is remembered not only as the nation's first president and a great general, but as a man of honor, integrity, and humility. His leadership helped guide the new United States through its most difficult early years and earned him the title, the Father of the Nation.